10 people have tested positive on a cruise ship stuck in limbo between Japan and Hong Kong, and that's just the beginning of the mystery. Supposedly, the story begins with one lonely traveler boarding in Yokohama, and a few days later, 10 people on this cruise ship have already tested positive. How many more on this love boat, on this cruise ship to hell, ladies and gentlemen, will test positive? This cruise ship is going to tell us quite a bit about this virus, believe it or not. It's like its own little experiment, and so we're going to be following this story because it's going to give us quite a bit of information on what's to come. But as the story develops, the details just keep getting worse, ladies and gentlemen. New videos every day of the panic, of the evacuations, the long lines. You see these people in line at the hospital, they're all feeling the sickness. They're not there for free meds. Really. They're there because they've been infected. And it's like new big city after new big city. Again, this is our future because at the height of the epidemic in Wuhan, ground zero, flights were going all over the world non-stop. You know, their airport's twice the size of O'Hare. If you can imagine being in an airport, looking at all of these departures and these arrivals, all these big cities, London, Frankfurt, Paris, New York, LA, San Francisco, right? So for a week, 10 days, you know, they were getting seeds every day, flaming arrows, actually. It just takes one person on a plane to infect the whole plane, and then, like, you know, all 200 people become a ticking time bomb. The flaming arrow, one after the other, into every big city in the world, and it's all gonna bloom at around the same time. What is this mystery disease, you might be asking yourselves, ladies and gentlemen? What is this Wuhan supervirus? Day one of the lockdown, they started treating this virus like it came out of a lab, ladies and gentlemen, and undoubtedly, you know, it must have come out of a lab, looking at what this virus does. Of course, the latest numbers, the real numbers, leaked online from a Chinese company, Tencent, a huge mega corporation, tech corporation, with staggering numbers that seem to reflect more of what we're seeing than the official numbers. 154,000 people infected, 79,000 people suspected, 25,000 dead. That's the big shocker. And this doesn't include the numbers of all the people that they sent home, ladies and gentlemen, according to official reports. So the numbers are probably much worse. I mean, this is a true nightmare scenario. Obviously, the video guy is on vacation. Never get the help that you deserve out there. But it's supposed to be David versus Goliath. And right now, the reinforcements have come in. And it's going to take out Sodom and Gomorrah. All these big cities where all these libtard Democrats live are pretty much going to get wiped out. The kill rate of this virus is nearing 20%, according to the real numbers. And there's still a lag there between, you know, deaths and confirmed cases by at least 7 days. So the numbers could be like, you know, 35, 40% when it's all said and done. That's why it's going to be real interesting to watch the evolution of this case on this cruise ship stuck in limbo right now. And, you know, it's a pretty interesting story. So far, what we know is that the boat left on January 20th and made a stop to Hong Kong where somebody debarked. And that person tested positive a couple days later. Now, he's originally from Hong Kong. He got on the ship in Japan. Now, we know that Hong Kong is going to explode in cases just like every neighboring country, city-state, you know, in the region. But the fact that, you know, you got all these people that boarded a ship in Japan being infected raises the question, well, where did this come from? Now, they've already got 20 cases, confirmed cases, And undoubtedly, the closer you are to ground zero, the worse it is. And, that might be, some positive news for us, but the ripples are coming. You can bet that every major city, is going to test positive sooner or later. We got our first confirmed case in Wisconsin, and that wasn't even on the suspected list. And there's about, who knows how many people on this.
I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month.
And then what? It's going to be a difficult month. They fully expect spreading. It's not if, it's when. Because so many flights took off from Wuhan at the height of the epidemic, there's just like no realistic way that this isn't going to bloom in every major city around the world. Thanks to this beast system, ladies and gentlemen. And we want to talk about, this Wuhan sudden death syndrome. People are just keeling over it. You might have thought that was a little suspicious when you first saw the videos, but we got more videos of people just dropping dead and then, going into convulsions. It's rather shocking. You've probably seen this video by now, ladies and gentlemen. And we're just going to let this play. It's very shocking footage. And you might think that this guy's just having a seizure and he just happens to be, in the middle of the epidemic. But in fact, we're seeing numerous cases like this as well. And if you pay attention to the video guy, where's the video guy? Oh yeah, we're having all sorts of glitches in the Matrix right now. We're hacking the Matrix, broadcasting live on this Beast System channel, ScrewTube. But we've got more video of basically people, displaying this type of syndrome, the sudden death syndrome associated with this virus. It's not just pneumonia. And it's not just, people fainting. It's a heart attack. And in fact, this thing just kind of like invades the whole body in ways that we just don't fully understand yet. But the reports that are showing up in the medical journals right now are showing multiple organ regions being affected, not just the lungs, but the heart, the kidneys, and white blood cells. This thing goes after. Oh, look at the video guy. It's tough getting decent help these days. But if you pay attention to this guy in the middle, you'll see that he starts convulsing right there. And it's, not all of them are going to, convulse the same way. But we're seeing enough of this to understand that this is part of the disease. And, these people that you're seeing that, that are just dead on the street, they died that way. They didn't make it to the hospital. They didn't get the, the ICU. They just dropped dead. And there's hundreds of thousands of cases right now. Tens of thousands dead. And this thing is spreading everywhere. And you look at the television and it's like, now you see how fake they are, right? They're like, they'll talk about anything but this. They'll show you, sports and weather and, markets and all that stuff, but they're certainly not going to be talking about this as much. And if they do, they certainly don't show you any footage like this because you'd already be stocking up guns and ammo, the whole thing. It's the real deal. And the clock is ticking. Luckily, there's a clock that's ticking. People have about 2 weeks to prepare. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe less, maybe more. It's difficult to give any type of dates. And look, there's a very small infantile probability that this, this may just kind of be smaller outbreaks in America. But that's only if the right conditions are met. And I think that at this stage, people should be thinking about everything they can. Why is this happening? if we look at, the world news right now, there's a huge plague-like infestation in Africa. It's like a biblical plague showing up over there. There's earthquakes, there's wars, and then there's this super virus. And I think there's a lot to be said about where this is happening. This isn't happening in the upper Midwest. This isn't happening in the Bible Belt. This is happening in places, and will happen in places that, have banned the Bible, tried to rewrite the Bible, tried to, make the state the religion. And they've crossed all boundaries of like normal, all red lines that, any sane person would respect. These people are off the hook. And now it's like blowing up in their face like Sodom and Gomorrah, and people are like wondering, why is this happening? For real? I don't think anybody should be really wondering why this is happening. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Right now, basically everybody's going to have to go into their own little ark and ride out this storm. And there's no question really about if this is coming. It's when will it hit, and are you going to be like, the sheeple on Black Friday trying to, fight, other people for toilet paper when you could have just got it now. And the best strategy is just to kind of hunker down for 30 to 45 days. It'll probably take 45 days for this thing to cycle out. And we wouldn't be surprised if the quarantines end up lasting 45 days. First in China and then everywhere else. And I think, it's important to look at what's happening over there, because they're kind of like a window to the future. And we're going to be seeing scenes like this, and we can avoid, what doesn't work or what's problematic. And waiting in line, crowding with other people during an epidemic is probably the worst thing you can do. So, you kind of want to basically prepare, get your meds, get your ammo, get whatever you might need out there. I'm not saying that you're all on, the psychotropics, but, some people have diabetes, some people have asthma. If you need that kind of stuff, get it, because you don't want to be lining up at the pharmacy while everybody's trying to get a mask, coughing on you, and the like. Limiting your viral load is very important in an epidemic like this. And anything that you can do to limit your exposure, including, short breaths in crowded places, will help out. And, if you're in a community type setting, multiple people in your household, and one person might be suspected of having the virus, then know that, even 5 minutes in a room that they're primarily in is a heavy dose. And so, you want to air out before you go in there, maybe wear the mask, have them wear a mask so they're not coughing everywhere. And this is serious. I mean, people are going to need to start thinking about this seriously here, what they're going to do, because anything that we do collectively to slow down the spread of this virus, the better it'll be. Because this is going to spread like wildfire. And since nobody's been inoculated, nobody really has, full immunity to this, it's going to spread like, lighting a piece of paper on fire. And the waves are just going to come through. And if you're like, outside breathing it in, you're definitely going to get the worst of it. And, there's probably no avoiding it fully. So the best strategy is slow inoculation. Slow little doses, because if this thing blitzes into your lungs, you're pretty much, on the red list. And we don't know what the kill rate is right now, but I think people can suspect up to 35%. In the worst case scenario, right now it looks like around 16%, which is going to translate into millions of people in every country. And this is a year that nobody will forget, 2020, the outbreak of 2020. And, the stock markets are going to crash. Businesses are going to shut down. I mean, this is just the beginning of the nightmare. And so stocking up for 45 days is probably like a minimum target of where you want to be. So lots of new developments in this Wuhan supervirus story. As far as the official numbers go, the numbers on television, which they don't even believe when they're reading their script. They're like 25,000. Today, 25,000. When it's really closer to, probably like 250,000, 500,000. And the deaths are probably, much higher than the figures that we got from February the 1st. And we'll try and bring up that picture again. But this leaked in the Taiwan news. First originally appearing in a Chinese company's website, Tencent. They're a huge tech company out there. 154,000 cases confirmed. And you really have to think about their, confirmation process. 80,000 cases suspected, 25,000 deaths. It's probably twice that at minimum. And, we saw the videos yesterday for the first time of the crematoriums. And, you thought what the Nazis were doing was bad. Hold on, we'll get back to the story. Here's the Wuhan supervirus in action. This is being referred to as sudden death syndrome. So it's not just like the flu, and it's not just like AIDS, but this thing's a killer, an instant killer, ladies and gentlemen. You catch it, you can just drop dead from this virus, and that's like nothing anybody's ever seen before as well. But the numbers are just much worse than people think, and how fast this spreads is a very important variable, to say the least. And that's where this cruise ship gets interesting, because 5 days ago 3,700 people boarded a ship in Japan, and now 11 people have the virus. 10 still on the ship. One person got off in Hong Kong, but they started in Japan. So there's only a couple scenarios there. Like there was a seed that got on and 10 people got infected, or those 10 people were infected before they got on the ship, and that's how bad the situation is in Japan right now, which is basically like Hong Kong, and the like. So it's hard to say what happened, but chances are what we're going to find out is that hundreds, if not like 1,000 people on this ship have the virus, and all of a sudden the cases are just going to jump. And I think it's going to be Japan that gets the credit for it, because it docked there. It got quarantined there, so it's not really their ship, but it kind of is, because it started there. So yeah, they're going to get, they're going to get a bunch more cases. 10 more already confirmed from this case. And, if it spreads like crazy on this ship, we're pretty much doomed. If it stops at 10, maybe you can ask some questions. And will we ever get the real answers from these people on TV? That's a definite no. Not until it's like painfully obvious. And even then, they tend to stay in denial, because that's who these people are. They're the denialists. They're never going to get to acceptance. They're never going to see the world for what it is, because they're paid to lie to you. They're paid to read a script. And that's what makes the television so dangerous, because, they've got a monopoly on information, and it's only their views that, are allowed. And no matter who says that, you're in for some trouble. If all of a sudden I came on air and I'm like, you can't listen to anybody else but me, or else, you're a Russian spy, then obviously you must think, there's some issues there. But that's what the television is saying. They're all like, hey, if you get your news from anywhere else, you're, some kind of communist or some kind of terrorist or something. And that's the new world we live in, this new world order, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not sure what the video guy is doing. Looks like he's on vacation. But in fact, we've been getting quite a bit of interference in the studios. They just don't want us talking about this situation. And you can tell that they just don't want to talk about it. You know, all these people are in denial. And look, who can blame them? I mean, you know, deep down, you all know that this looks bad and you better just enjoy life while you can. So we're not just saying, you know, go out there and stock up and then never leave home again. But I think there is something to be said about enjoying these last days before everything really gets crazy. And I think that, you know, the probability that it does get crazy out there in the next 3 to 4 weeks is looking very likely at this stage. And, you know, we take no pleasure saying that. You know, I know a lot of people, trolls, might want to come on here and say, oh, he's just, you know, making you afraid. This is, you know, this is all about the fear and stuff like that. And look, you know, this is what the news business is. We're just here trying to report the news. We could just run these videos without commentary and it just paints a very similar picture. You can't imagine, you know, people, you know, coming on TV being disingenuous and talking about something else. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what it just feels like when you're just watching these people right now. It's just like, how disingenuous can you be? But they don't really talk about the death towers. They don't talk about the vaccines. They don't talk about the fluoride. They don't talk about 9/11. So obviously, you know, they're not going to be talking about this, you know, bioweapon that's escaped the lab and is, you know, running rampant on the world. They're not going to be talking about that. So I'm not sure why people even tune into the television. We do it, you know, as kind of like counterintelligence, just to see what the bad guys are up to. But that's essentially it. You know, these people on TV, they're not your friends. They're the enemy. And they're responsible for the death towers. And, you know, they're responsible for basically, you know, hypnotizing you to choose one of these pre-selected candidates, you know, and they want to call it a democracy. It's just, you know, it's so fake. It's so they live. It's just like, you can't even stand it anymore. Nobody can stand it anymore. And people are waking up to that. And, you know, now, you know, they're always forced to run these epic 𝐔𝐏𝐃𝐀𝐄 events to get people back in line, you know, like, you know, they're going to come out as the heroes, the authorities, the, you know, that kind of like figure. And you'll have no choice but to do what they tell you. And, you know, and that's it. I mean, they unleash the virus and then they roll out the troops and they're like, stay at home and, you know, don't you post anything on the internet. That's what's happening in China right now. We've got videos of, like, you know, the police going door to door or going to suspect of people that have uploaded videos and they're like, take down your video, then put up another video that says that you were confused and you're sorry for the inconvenience. Literally, we've got those videos on tape. And you can bet that, you know, we're going to start seeing some similar stuff over here. It's de facto like that. I mean, I've never seen censorship this bad in the years that we've been in the news business. And, you know, everybody's getting censored. Everybody's getting basically slammed by this, you know, attempt to control the narrative. And it's obvious, you know, and it's not only that. They want to come take your guns. All of their 𝐔𝐏𝐃𝐃𝐄 events, you know, all have the cookie crumbs right back to 322. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's so in your face. And so why expect anything different with this situation? What the questions that we should be asking ourselves right now is, you know, where are all these criminals going, you know, with the billions and trillions that they've stolen from taxpayers? You know, what are they doing with our money? What are they planning now? And the like. And you can bet that they've got a vaccine for this. They've got a treatment for this for their club. You know, you're starting to hear all sorts of rumors, you know, there's a cure, there's a vaccine, it's there. And then it just gets hushed up right away. And undoubtedly, you know, the people that unleash this virus have, you know, their treatment already set up. They've got their deep underground military bases or their private islands, and like, they're not concerned about what's happening to the world right now. In fact, this is what they want. This is what they've always wanted. And since it doesn't look like they're going to get their World War III anytime soon, they've basically rolled this out. But I mean, that should have been like, you know, a big red flag to everybody, how they were just trying to do everything they could to start nuclear war with the Russians or, the Chinese and the like. They want the world to end. They want to kill everybody. And, this is probably just kind of like a big step in that direction. They're getting real now. We didn't lock these people up after the WikiLeaks. Instead, they locked up Assange, and now they've unleashed their super virus. And, it's just like, how fake, can it be? And I'm not sure how many people watched the State of the Union yesterday, but there really wasn't one mention of the impending doom, the certain doom that's headed our way. They're just all doing their political theater. It's like, it's like this was almost like pre-taped, part of the script just rolling out like nothing has happened, right? And it just seems so out of context, so out of date already. Because you'd think, it'd be more like the movie Independence Day. We need to get together, there's something coming, and we need to put aside our political differences and this kind of that kind of speech. But instead it was, more of the same. And it's like, well, look, if these libtards are all going to get slammed by this super virus and get wiped out, we better be in a position to finish the job. We got to be the mop-up crew because, this virus is coming for them. Have no doubt about it. And, believe it or not, this is going to be the answer to many people's prayers. And, as ironic as that sounds, I like Bill Gates. Fuck all y'all. Look, these libtards have got to go. And this virus is the cure. Now, as far as what happens after that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll certainly be up in the polls. I mean, this should take out 10% of the libtards in the big cities. So the 2020 elections is a guaranteed win. But the question here is, are they going to continue to roll out their death towers? Are they going to continue to fluoridate the people, vaccinate the people? Or are we going to take this country back? I think that everybody needs to read the Declaration of Independence and what happens when tyranny takes over. What is the role of the people out there? Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget about your birthright, about your heritage before they steal it away from you. If you're just joining us, this is the latest on the Wuhan super virus. Sudden death syndrome. This virus kills in ways that nobody has seen before. Of course, this was a secured location, and that guy got taken out. Now, you might think he's just having a seizure. That's part of the problem. In fact, they get, this massive heart attack, seizure all at once, and they just drop dead. So you can call it whatever you want to. We've got numerous videos showing this syndrome, the sudden death syndrome. This is part of the package. This is coming. And they want to talk about the economy that's just about ready to tank here. They're just holding back the numbers so that they can steal as much money as they can and place themselves in ways you can't even imagine before the shit gets real out there. And so before you know it, everything's going to tank. I mean, I think we saw Tesla take a 20% hit today. It's just like they're pumping it up. It's like the pump and dump, right? I don't know if I have to explain what the pump and dump is. Go check out the movie The Boiler Room if you want to check out the pump and dump. But this is a big pump and dump before everything crashes, right? And this is just to keep people stable enough so that they can, pull their money out before anybody notices. So, you can think whatever you want to think, but the television is there to buy this system time before it all starts crashing down. That's basically, the bottom line. But we've got a lot of angles of the story that we've covered in recent days. I'd recommend you guys check out the video archives if you're just finding us again after the massive censorship and the like. But right now, at the height of the epidemic, which seems to be between the 15th and the 22nd in Wuhan, seems like everybody that was going there was getting infected. Everybody was infected. A ton of people infected during that 1 week period before they locked everything down, and flights from that mega city of 11 million people were going, nonstop, 24 hours a day to every other big city in the world. Just like when you're sitting in an airport, you see the departures and the arrivals, right? So you got plane loads of people. And if those, 200 people on the plane weren't contaminated before they got on the plane, they were certainly contaminated in, the 10-hour flight or whatever to San Francisco or Hawaii or Seattle, maybe Chicago and the like. and, all of the other connecting cities and hubs along the way. So we're talking about a ton of flaming arrows that have just come in, and we're 3 weeks behind this virus. And, according to the schedules, we're not slated for the first big wave, for another 2 to 3 weeks, plus or minus a week, depending on, certain types of environmental circumstances. So, but I think we'll see kind of like similar patterns to what we're seeing in Asia. The closer to the epicenter, the worse it's going to be. We have a feeling that San Francisco is like the main port hub on the U.S. side for traffic from Asia. So we would expect that California becomes like the next Wuhan, and neighboring states are going to get, their fair share. The Rocky Mountains are going to be a natural border. They might as well just start, blowing the tunnels right now if they were smart. But they won't. So I think people that are living in the small towns and the like, they better get their bulldozers ready. You better be paying attention to what the Chinese are doing fighting this virus, because people are locking down cities, not to be cute, but for their protection. And you're going to want to start building your network in your town. We've told you to do this for quite some time, so you better have a network out there. And you guys are going to be on patrol. And if you're tuning into this, you should have enough heads up to be able to ride out the storm. Again, you want to consider viral load, as well as not being out as the waves go by. And you'll be able to tell when there's spikes and waves and the like. So you should be able to ride this out. But limiting your exposure in every form possible is the way to go. And, infection might be inevitable, but there's a big difference between a low dose and a high dose when you do get infected. And that difference, plays out all throughout the cycle of the disease. So you want to be on the low dose scale, short breaths in crowded places, wear a mask, look goofy, don't care, F the sheeple out there. This virus is for them. It's not for you. So put your mask on and avoid crowded places. Start stocking up. We've been talking about the other outbreak. There's many outbreaks, in fact, to be talking about right now. All sorts of diseases and pestilences running around out there. It looks biblical. But there's an outbreak of the DEV virus. And it basically changes the victim's morphology, as well as takes over part of their mind. And it's kind of like toxoplasmosis. I'm not sure if you heard of that parasite that actually influences the behavior of its host. But the DEV virus is very similar. They become afraid of the light, photophobic. They start exhibiting literally demonic horns on their foreheads. And you might think that's strange and unusual, ladies and gentlemen, but who's rolling out the death towers, the fluoride, the genocide, the GMOs, the vaccines, the geoengineering, the chemtrails and the like, the Fukushimas, the accidents, the spills, the PFAS, the lead, etc. Who do you think's responsible for this stuff? You'd think if these people on TV really cared about you, we wouldn't have anything to complain about, right? Because we're not asking for a whole lot, just pure food, air, and water, as well as not getting beamed by these death towers. And we certainly would like to have a Christian state. How many people out there would like to have a Christian homeland like the Jews have a homeland? Ladies and gentlemen, we need a Christian state in America. Where will that be? A state where we don't have to listen to these demons from California and the like. And soon, we may not hear from them anymore. So, you shouldn't be distressed about this virus. This is gonna, do a lot of damage in the big cities, and that's where the libtards are. So, chances are, if you're listening to this broadcast, you're not in the big city. If you are, get an escape plan. But look, this is for them. This is what they wanted. This is what they asked for, literally, time after time. So, I don't think people should be crying or being too worried that there's going to be less libtards at the end of this, epidemic. But I think it should serve as a reminder of, where the red lines are. And it's pretty well described in the Bible, the 10 Commandments, ladies and gentlemen. And it's starting to look like the movie The Ten Commandments. You got plagues and the like out there, and everybody should be screaming, "Let my people go." When you see that pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, that represents New Babylon, ladies and gentlemen. That represents the slavery that we were freed from. And so we're basically reliving the pages of the Bible. And it's like Noah's Ark. It's like Moses telling Pharaoh, "Let my people go." You're going into your ark. You're going to ride this tidal wave out. And when it's done, we're going to mop up, "Let our people go." Because otherwise, this isn't going to stop. You know, this isn't even yet the plagues in the book of Revelation. And why do you think these plagues come? Is it because we're being good people out here? Or is it because the whole world is run by this beast system? So people are going to have to choose their own destiny. Do they want to get wiped out because of these demons? Or do they want to be free and, you know, explore the universe? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another debate. You know, should we be going into the heavens above and taking ownership of, you know, things that don't belong to us? I think that's a big question that we should be asking ourselves. And undoubtedly, you know, the more we just kind of follow along with this beast system, the worse it's going to get. And before you know it, they're going to be plugging you into the matrix. They're going to be, you know, plugging the brain chip into you, the Elon Musk brain chip. And of course, he's going to be rolling out the Death Stars. You know, he's going to be beaming the whole planet with like 5G. And, you know, this EMF radiation just makes everything worse. It attacks your immune system. It fries your white blood cells. And so even the common cold becomes more deadly because of this EMF radiation. And I think if people really want to, you know, their community to ride out the storm, they're probably going to have to take down these death towers, ladies and gentlemen. And in any case, you're probably not going to want, you know, outsiders coming in for a while. So look, I mean, martial law is coming. And it's going to look like the end of the world. And you can either freak out or you can celebrate that these people are getting what they deserve. And the next time, don't try and, you know, change what's in the Bible to fit your political needs. Don't try to ban the Bible. Don't try to, you know, turn little boys into little girls, right? Quit molesting children in schools. Stop with the Luciferian product placement on television, right? We need a Christian state. It's freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. You know, our country has a church in every town. Where do you think we come from? You're going to betray that? You're going to turn your back on who you are as a people? Then you get what you deserve. And you're looking at it. Let our people go. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. So you thought you were cute. Reinforcements have arrived. The Grim Reapers in San Francisco. And the real numbers will come out soon. Soon as the VIPs have made it to their, you know, safe place, ladies and gentlemen. But I think they should hang out with us. I think they should be out there in Times Square enjoying the view as people are dropping dead. What do you guys think out there? We're broadcasting live on this Beast System channel. Screw tube, as it were. How's everybody doing out there? I want to give a big shout out to everybody in the audience. Tommy Gunn, how you doing? Your friendly neighborhood dealer. Uh-oh. Montana JC, Manu, Alien Hunters, Sally. What's going on out there? T-Graz, Free Spirit. This is, you know, the news of the day. But you're hardly seeing anybody on the television talk about it. Why is that? Why don't they show you the footage of what's going on out there? We'll get into that and so much more. Of course, the big story right now, there's 3,700 people stuck on the Love Boat. And in fact, there's 2 cruise ships quarantined right now, thousands of people, and at least 10 cases confirmed so far. So imagine if like 10 cases just showed up in a city somewhere, people would be freaking out. And essentially it just happened, a major outbreak just happened on a cruise ship with 3,700 people, one American included. Where did this guy get it? On the ship or in Japan? You know, and in any case, I mean, following this story will tell us a lot about the nature of this virus. How contagious is it? And as far as we can tell, it's highly contagious, highly weaponized. And we've been saying this from day one. This virus has all of the qualities that you would want in a bioweapon. And the way it was deployed, right in the middle of a huge traffic hub, sparked, all sorts of questions. Because usually when you see a novel virus, it's emerging from, nature somewhere on the fringe, between the jungle and the little villages, and it kind of goes up the chain. But this started like 20 miles away from a weapons lab, and they're like, the seafood market did it. Imagine imagine this happened, imagine the ground zero was Chicago, and Chicago's got a wet market and they got a bioweapons lab. What do which one would you pick? Oh, it had to be the wet market. It couldn't be the bioweapons lab. They locked down their whole country like it escaped the lab. And we're supposed to suspect that it just kind of came out of, the seafood market. And, while that was the original version of the story, medical journals are now saying, well, the first 3 cases had absolutely nothing to do with the wet market, and that the first infections likely occurred in November, way before. The wet market just ended up being a place that got infected, and it was the biggest place they could find. But, it seemed to make sense, supposedly, as a cover story. It came from the bats, it came from the rats. But the way they just kind of covered this up and let this thing get to a point where it's like, a nuclear reacting, melting down, and now it's, radioactive clouds going everywhere. The fact that they allowed that to happen makes you really wonder. Chernobyl happened in a minute. This took a month to cook up. And, even now they're hiding the numbers and they're just burning the bodies in these massive crematoriums. And we've been saying for years that, well, what we're seeing right now in the big cities is that they've turned it into like a concentration camp. And you're basically stuck there. You never leave there. And they're poisoning the food, the air, the water, and it's like, you accept it because you think it's normal. But, in fact, it's not normal. It's not normal to be fluoridated. It's not normal to be, sprayed like bugs. And it's certainly not normal to be exposed, by the super virus. They've surrounded, these concentration camps, not with an electrical fence, but with a geofence. And since you're not going to go anywhere without your cell phone, you're always going to be within range of their death towers. And, the Nazis used Zyklon B to gas everyone. Here they're using Zyklon C for coronavirus to gas everyone. And they've got the incinerators to prove it. And I think we should spend a little time on these incinerators once again, because they're massive. And, what we know about this system is that everything is built for dual purpose. It's not just what it seems, to say the least, ladies and gentlemen. And we're just going to have to find that video of the crematoriums. But everything kind of doubles as a nefarious twin. These all of these schools and prisons and the like can serve as, a FEMA camp, essentially. They've got the HVAC systems to gas you and, to lock you in. They've got what they need to lock you in and the like. And so they can just be like, hey, come over for a meeting, and just basically whack everybody. That's the intent that everything is built with, whether you realize that or not. And, these, incinerators that were, maybe used at one time for trash or something like that are now, look at these things. It's ready for mass extermination. And look, if the situation was anything different, you wouldn't be blamed for thinking that, I was just making all of this stuff up. Does it look like we're making, this stuff up? Do these body bags? Does it look like we staged all of this? So the question you have to ask yourself now is this real? And if it is real, why isn't the television talking about it? What do they know that we don't know? And we talked a little bit about that yesterday. CNBC telling, the investor crowd that, it's time to get out, while, they're just basically lullabying everybody else. And we're going to have to see what we did with that video. Maybe we can play it here for you.
I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then what? Everything's going to shut down, just like in China. So, this is what they're telling the rich folk, but, everybody else is getting kind of like the soft serve ice cream. And they're like, let's talk about sports or the weather or, your local news, or how about some politics, And, at a time like this, when you see this massive, world-ending event, on the horizon, and they're just like pretending like nothing is going on, that's when you realize just how, fake it is. They're nothing but actors reading a script there to entertain you and keep you busy and to basically brainwash you. But, the real news is out there in the real world. And most people just, don't go outside anymore. They don't, they're not part of the real world anymore. And so they're really detached from reality, as sad as that is to say. But in any case, the politics is there just to keep you delusional. You're fighting amongst yourselves and you think, your guy's, gonna win and, and all that. But these people aren't on your side. It's a big club and you're not in it. And they're just there to keep you distracted. If they were really on your side, they would take down the 5G. They would, do more studies on the 4G. They would, kind of ask more questions about the vaccines. It used to be that nobody had an autistic kid. Now everybody knows somebody that has an autistic kid. What happened there? You look at the skies. We used to have clear blue skies. Now it's all like powdery white at best. It's like a light blue and you can see the powder. And there's, ropes and snakes everywhere trying to block out the light. I mean, if that doesn't scream dark side, ladies and gentlemen, just like this, Resident Evil Umbrella Corporation super virus that's running rampage, if this doesn't scream dark side, it's just a huge blood sacrifice and you got all these demons, running around just basically, sucking up all the death out there. And you'd be surprised, just how twisted the dark side is. Ladies and gentlemen, you have no idea. You thought the adrenochrome was bad. I mean, that's just part of, the problem. And this kind of brings us back to the DEV virus and the dark matrix, this hive mind that we're up against. You might want to call it the New World Order. You might want to call it something else. But it truly is like the Matrix in a sense. And, this network of demons are legion, just like it says in the Bible. And the way they communicate, the way they organize, and target Christians and individuals that are awake, isn't your imagination. I'm pretty sure every Christian out there has felt the persecution for themselves, and it's probably real close to home. And that's exactly the way it's described in the Bible. We recommend that everybody know. The Gospels, at the very least, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, by heart. Listen to them on tape because it describes what's going on in the world, in ways you can't even imagine. And as soon as you leave doubt behind, you'll see the matrix glitch around you. It's something else. And, once you get on that road to righteousness, you're just never going back, ladies and gentlemen. And we all make mistakes. Even the saints fell from time to time.
And it's going to be a difficult month.
But they picked themselves up and they, kept moving forward. Don't wallow in the mire out there, and don't let this virus, get you down. This is, these are reinforcements, if you will, and they'll be taking out, members of the dark side. These people in the big cities, all these, liberal Democrats and the like, they're the target of this virus. And they're the ones that are going to take the biggest hit. And there's probably going to be some, collateral damage. And so, people should prepare. And, this could devolve quickly into martial law, everything shut down, no more jobs for a while. So you really want to think about your positioning. And you probably want to collaborate with people you can trust and the like, if you can. That's a big if these days. But do the best you can to survive this, mega storm that's coming, this tidal wave this outbreak, which will be, probably much worse than the Spanish flu when it's all said and done. It's, it's going to be historical. They'll be writing about this for hundreds of years, maybe, if humanity survives. And, we're going to be living it. And I think there's an opportunity here for you to be a hero in your community, get people organized, don't waste your time with the sheeple. They want to continue on watching sports. Let them. This virus is for them. But go find people that you can trust, because you're going to need a network if it goes Mad Max out there. The internet isn't going to save you. And, chances are we're going to be seeing a lot of strategies deployed, like in China, where you got towns and villages kind of like, basically cutting themselves off from the rest of the world to survive, like some kind of Resident Evil 28 weeks later kind of scenario. And, these movies, were out there to train you a little bit on ideas and concepts. And it's real important that you if you have somebody that can watch your back, that you can trust, to get everybody on the same page and to start speaking the same language. Quit speaking sheeple out there. Forget about them. They're done. And we should really think about what happens next. And of course there's going to be a lot of reasons to feel like you want to help them out and the like, but it's a trap. Back in the day, and in the old wars, they used to wound a member of the platoon, so that the whole platoon basically had to carry the guy out of the jungle and the like. And that's what they want you to do, ladies and gentlemen. And you go in there, you get infected, and now you're a risk to everybody else. And so just let Sodom and Gomorrah burn. Don't look back, right? Don't look back out there, and just keep moving forward and save who you can. That's pretty much all you can say about this particular crisis. Right now, the numbers keep ticking up, but we're expecting, a major boom in the next 2 to 3 weeks. You've got this little window to prepare little by little every day. You don't have to, grab everything tonight, but, start getting rubber gloves, 3M masks, start maybe getting some painters outfits. You can be a bioweapon survivor with, probably like $30-40. You can get yourself the whole get up, and just have that. You never know, especially these days. It's super easy to boot up a bioweapon with the 3D molecular printing. So we're not going to get into that, but in any case, our recommendation is to prepare as much as you can. Backstops, escape strategies, choke points, two-way radios, ammo, food, depots, the works. If you've had that mindset for a while, you're about to get your reward, and the like. And save a couple people if you can out there, like-minded people. Be on the lookout for the Judas in disguise, for the photophobic, the one that continues to blaspheme, the one that endlessly brings up the number 6 like it's their religion, the one that fights you on every truth or issue, and you feel like they're just sleeping. They're not sleeping, they're waiting, ladies and gentlemen. And so that's the way it is out there. We've been going through this long enough, and thankfully reinforcements have arrived. So everybody should be sleeping real nice right now, and don't worry about this too much. If you do end up living in a city that is suffering through an epidemic, ride out the waves as much as you can. Every day makes a difference that you're not out there being exposed, especially in the first cycles, the first 2 cycles when it hits your town, because every city is going to be experiencing their local epidemic. And so you might be hearing it on the news, it's over there, but every city, every couple of blocks is going to be going through their own type of epidemic. Apartments are going to be a nightmare, buildings are going to be a nightmare, but this is going to spread from the downtowns to the suburbs, in just about every town, hub and spoke. you know, and it's going to go where the people are, grocery stores, pharmacies, you know, and the like. So that's why we say stock up now, write out the first waves. And as this burns through a couple cycles, that means that more and more people will have, you know, immunity, natural immunity, and they'll serve as backstops for future outbreaks. You know, it's kind of like a little shelter in the wind. So as time goes on, you know, you will have less and less cases, but it hasn't even begun. It hasn't even come close to peak in China yet. It's a total, you know, end of the world event over there. And we're looking at a similar scenario over here. Pretty much everybody agrees on that. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And right now the best forecast is 2 to 3 weeks, but there's a lot of variables there. And we could be seeing, you know, something next week, like it could be, you know, 3 weeks from now. But undoubtedly we're going to see local epidemics. And given the way this seeded out, I mean, this is worse than the worst case scenario, because again, you had a major airport for a week just sending out, you know, flaming arrows to every other major city in the world and every hub along the way. And those people, you know, went from their, you know, from the big city airport to their small town, right? And so, you know, and it's gone into the schools, the colleges, you know, the factories, the big, you know, workplaces, call centers and the like. So, you know, it's going to be pretty much everywhere all at once. But when, you know, when that hits, the fight is going to be your local community, your neighborhood, your house. And if you got multiple people in the house, you know, you're going to have to be thinking about containment there. That's why I say get gloves, get masks, get disinfectant, get the white vinegar in a spray bottle. And, you know, if you're trying to fight a fire in your house, you know, start spraying that shit everywhere twice a day. Doorknobs, you know, everything. Limit your exposure as much as possible. And chances are nobody's going to escape, you know, some kind of dose. But there's a big difference between a big dose and a small dose. So limit your dose as much as possible out there. And if you need anything, you know, any kind of like life support medication or whatever, stock up on it. Get a 3-week supply, a 4-week supply, and the like. And I think that after the first waves burn through, it'll be much safer to be walking around the ghost town than it is to be rushing to the grocery store trying to get toilet paper in the first days. So you really want to avoid the rush in the first days. That, you know, that's probably the most. And chances are, you know, this virus is closer to you than you think it is. And when they start reporting the first cases in the big cities like, you know, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, you know, first kind of like secondary spreads and the like, people are going to think, well, it's just over there. Chances are it's probably like, you know, already in the next, you know, middle-sized towns over. It's already starting to seed there. So you're going to kind of want to think like 2 moves ahead. And even if you're off by a move, you know it's coming that way. So, you know, you're not going to be way off base. So I think it's better to think about that. Think about your local community strategies as well as, you know, what you're going to be doing at home while you ride out the first couple waves. As soon as the first couple waves go by, you'll have a lot more room to breathe and to move, and you can kind of, you know, enjoy the apocalypse, if you will, as the libtards are running for their lives. So, you know, everybody gets what they deserve. It's long overdue. Everybody knows it. Payback's a bitch. We'll leave it there for this broadcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Much love out there. Until the next time, if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.